Welcome, everybody, to Strangest Species, Season 2, Episode 8. I am your host, Mike Davis, with your co-host, Ethney Davis.
Hello, hello.
Welcome, everybody, to another, hopefully, somewhat, maybe, riveting episode.
Oh, wow. There's a lot
How
of...
I sold that?
Yeah. No, it wasn't...
Great salesman.
Yeah. You are a great salesman. Yes.
You're all sold on how great this episode's going to be.
I mean, I am for sure.
I'm going to tell you this right now. This is my favorite episode. Or, I don't know if the episode. Hopefully, I don't butcher it. This is my favorite script I've ever written. The story that we're going to cover is my favorite story we have ever covered.
Really?
Yeah. It made me laugh. It made me cry.
Okay.
It made me happy.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Wow. You really cried?
No. I didn't really cry. But there's some parts in there where I could have.
Okay.
If I knew how.
Yeah, you're not very good at that part. About the crying part. Maybe I'll do that for you.
Yeah. I think I cried when Kansas lost the national championship to Syracuse in 2003. Was that the year they lost?
Yeah, not when your children were born.
No.
Or broken body parts or...
No.
No, just Jayhawks losing.
Yeah, that was sad. Dang Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah. All right, let's focus.
Focused. Hey, do you want to fill anyone in on your latest raccoon adventures?
Do I want to? I mean, sure. Yeah. Why not?
Just the cliff notes. The
cliff notes. Okay.
A quick run through of what you've been up to.
All my boys were in STEM camp last week, and we have to leave for STEM camp about 8 o'clock. Check-in's 8:15. So I send one of my boys, my middle boy, down just to take the dog, because I had to go to work, down to the base is what we call it, but down the hill behind our house. Yeah, to the forest behind our house. Well, 3 minutes later, he comes running back in, kind of exacerbated. It's like, Mom!
This is
It's our middle child.
Not
Our middle boy. And so he's like, Mom, Maple startled this raccoon and it ran into the tube. And I'm like, what tube? I had to think for a minute where he was. And he's like the one down by our back gate, like the tube. And I was like, okay. He's like, and then she kept barking at it or whatever, kept trying to get it from the one end. And then it ran up the other end and now it's up in a tree. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to lose it because we've been trying to catch this dang raccoon.
We have not seen the raccoon since the first day of school last year.
No, that's not true. I saw one walking on the fence, remember?
Oh, that's true. You did see one.
In June. So
it disappeared for a long time after you chased it naked through the forest.
Yes, our trap had never been touched by them. I hadn't had any signs of them. They hadn't killed any of our chickens. And then I was opening up my son's blinds in his room. One June morning, about 8:15. I mean, it was after school was over, and lo and behold, like a cat, the raccoon was literally just walking along the top of the fence. I was like, this is crazy. I didn't even, first of all, know they did that. One, they're big.
They are big.
And two, how did Corey on the other side of our neighbor not see the raccoon walking along the back of the fence? And so he's pretty good about being aware of all the things. So anyway, then I hadn't seen it since then. Well, our friends had chickens killed by raccoons. So then they borrowed our trap and yada, yada, yada. So I was like, okay, what do we do? So then, of course, my other two boys hear this and they go running down. So they have this raccoon down in the tree. I come walking down the hill.
Everyone's up for a good adventure with the raccoon.
Oh, for sure. And they know that they kill the chickens and they know that we've been trying to get them. So this tree that this giant raccoon decided to go up is literally the tiniest tree, and it is 20 feet at the most and skinny.
Is it bending over?
Oh yeah, it's totally bending over. I'm like, okay, this is
I'm at work again. I've
so
always missed the
easy
raccoon.
for us to hit. So they get their airsoft rifles, and they're obviously the dogs at the bottom just going crazy, trying to, well, I don't know what she thinks she's going to do, but keeping it up the tree at least. So then I'm kind of, there's a neighbor with his garage right down by us. And I go and talk to him. I'm like, there's a raccoon up here.
Was he just outside?
Yeah. He was just down in the garage. He was just outside and he's very hard of hearing. So I end up yelling, he's like, oh, I was like, the thing is, I don't really know that I'd care so much except for they've been killing my chickens. And so he's like, oh yeah, you need a pellet rifle. I'm like, I don't have a pellet rifle. Like, he's like, that's going to be the best thing. He's like, I don't care if you use a gun, you're more than welcome to get permission from me. And I said, do you happen to have this guy's number? So the tree, technically, if you ran through the pipe and onto the other tree, is actually on our other neighbor's yard. So I was like, and he's tricky. So
it's not like a yard. It's just like
his property is
right.
his hill. It's not yard. It's not fenced. It's just
it's not developed forest.
No,
he owns the land.
Yeah.
Right?
So anyway, I was like, I got to get this guy's number. So I call Mike. I'm like, hey, we don't have a pellet rifle, right? Which I knew we didn't. And then I was like, I need our neighbor's number, which luckily he had. So then I'm texting this neighbor. No response. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? And then I call my other neighbor because there's kind of 4 of us that sort of hover around this no man's land area. It's an easement from the city. Anyway, long story short, I call him. He's not home. He gives me permission to use a gun if I want to, but he's like, but the sound of the gun might freak the neighbors out. But he's like,
it's also very illegal.
Sure. But he's like, I don't care. Because we're down here, literally, there's no homes anywhere nearby. There's no people. We're down in this weird, there's a city pump down there. And so, anyway, I was trying to figure out what to be doing. And then I remembered that we had a contractor coming over. He is like,
he's Rambo.
He's Rambo. Yeah. He's awesome. And I was like, oh, I bet you he has a pellet rifle. So I call him. He never has his phone with him. So he already is on his way. He arrives and I'm telling him what's happening. Well, while this is happening, I turn around to look up to talk to the contractor up our hill. And literally there is another raccoon in the pipe still with his head sticking out, I think kind of curious about where their friend is or their parent or whoever. I don't know how they work.
I think they're raccoon lovers.
Maybe, but they don't mate for life. No, they don't. I know they don't. So I was researching.
I'm not questioning you.
So anyway.
On your knowledge.
Then I'm freaking out and telling the boys like, oh my gosh, there's a whole nother raccoon. So then the boys start.
There wasn't half another raccoon?
Right.
It was a whole one.
Oh, stop. Just stop. I was like, what? So they barricade this one other raccoon into the pipe. They block it with all these huge rocks and they're keeping it secure. The biggest thing is animal control wasn't open till 9:00. It's like 8:00 in the morning, pushing 8:15.
So this pipe she's talking about,
it's like a culvert.
Half of it is in our property. Mm-hmm. Half of it's in this county easement, like the other end.
Yeah. Or so technically the other neighbor. I don't even know if actually it is the
easement.
It's the easement. Yeah.
So we can totally, mess around with our half.
Yeah. So then we tried to call animal control. They didn't answer, and then my neighbor who's hard of hearing is like, really? You don't want to call anybody. The less people involved, the better. Like, just take care of them without any intervention from government agencies. This is my neighbor. I'm like, okay, I love this guy. Perfect.
When you call me at work and you're like, Mike, I don't know what to do, but I'm not leaving till they're dead.
Oh, I'm literally like, I do not want to let them down.
I'm not sure what your options are.
Okay, so then
you can't shoot the 20 because we have plenty of guns, but it's like you can't just go firing guns off.
But I had permission from everyone, but our kind of tricky neighbor. Like if I wanted to in this area that was literally safe, I would have no concerns about hitting anybody because we're in the middle of a forest, not near houses or anything, and we're lower than like any homes.
Yeah, I don't know, shooting up into a tree.
I could literally on that guy's thing he's digging, you're standing, you're
true.
Almost eye level with him. Anyway, so the one in the pipe, I hadn't even got that far about like shooting it. It was literally like, maybe just keep it locked in until it dies in there, which is terrible, but I don't know. Hadn't got that far. Well, anyway, so Joe arrives. We're talking to him. He's like, of course I have a pellet rifle. It's like the nicest one on the market. But he's like, I just got here to work. I don't want to leave to go get it. So I'm still saying, okay, I can't, my boys are supposed to go to camp. They're already running late. I say to my other neighbor. So finally this other neighbor that's tricky comes down and he's like, kind of like a little bit in shock. And, You just have to know him. And he's like, wait, there's one still on, like, there's one really right now? And I'm like, yeah, it's right there. Like
that thing right
staring
there.
at you. So anyway, then he gets in on it. So then these two neighbors are probably, I'm like, can I just ask a really big favor? Can you just stay here with my dog and like keep the one up the tree so that when I leave to take my boys to camp, they don't get down in the meantime. And then I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do about killing them or what we're doing. And they were like, oh yeah, sure. We can do that. But then my oldest,
Apparently none of our neighbors have lives.
none of them. Then my oldest son was like, I'm not going. I want to be a part of this. Like I want to be a part of this. So my two little ones, I go and ask the contractor. He says, you can run to my house and get the gun.
He's a buddy of ours.
Yeah. So anyway, I take my littlest boys. I drive all the way up to his house. And I drive back. And so Lincoln's there with my dog and these two other neighbors. So we get back and we've got the pellet rifle and the one's still up in the tree. And, you know, the contractor comes down because it's his gun and he proceeds to shoot said raccoon in the tree. And
this is a 22 caliber air rifle.
Pellet rifle. Yeah. So it looks legit. I mean, it looks, but it's quiet. Anyway, so he shoots raccoon. He gets it. It bounces, but doesn't fall out of the tree. Well, then he gets it again and he's standing up on that platform, gets it again. It does fall out of the tree, but it is not dead. This guy is a beast, this raccoon. And then as soon as it falls, our dog pounces. And then Lincoln, because raccoons are terrible, and obviously it's defending itself and it's scared and it's hurt.
He's really
Yelps.
into our dog.
He's really into our dog. So our dog yelps. She has blood on her. He literally has a panic attack. While he's having a panic attack, I'm trying to attend to him. The raccoon goes up another tree, and Joe's still trying to shoot it from this other tree. He finally said he got it. I didn't even know because I was dealing with my son having a panic attack about the dog. He said he got it 2 times in the head. It did come out of the tree, but it was bleeding everywhere and it scurried off. So he's pretty certain it's, dead.
Somewhere dead now.
Yeah. In the meantime, we figure out the blood on Maple is not a wound or an injury, luckily. I think as soon as she realized, like, oh, this thing is a mean thing, she backed off and we locked her in the yard and we wiped her clean. And holy cow, we came back and he was resourceful. So then it was now between all 3 neighbors. Well, 2 neighbors, my son and Joe and me, trying to figure out what are we going to do about the one in the pipe. So anyway, long story short, we fire at it from one end, try to get it out from the other end. Then the guy with the gun starts walking. Well, we're rolling rocks to try to scare it out one end. So he's standing with the gun. Anyway, it runs out the pipe up another tree. But this tree is much bigger and it gets up about 30 feet. And Joe's got a pretty dang good shot. And he gets it once and you can tell it's definitely injured, but it was like in the leg. And then he gets it again and it falls out of the tree like 30 feet. And when it lands, it is like paralyzed, but it does this weird archy. It was terrible. Anyway, and then he walked up to it and just got it in and then my boy decides he wants to pelt it. So it is frozen in our freezer right now. So this is
the only thing in our freezer is we have 3 freezers. But
right. In one of our
freezers, the only thing that's in there is a raccoon.
And so at some point we are going
and Joe's like, I'll show you how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
he used to have, like a rabbit farm?
Yeah, rabbit farm. Yeah. And he would raise them, but he actually ate their meat and stuff. So he knows how to more so take care of it. Yeah. Like if you're going to eat the meat, we want nothing to do with that except for the kids thought it would be cool to have the pelt. And then my dad's telling me you mix it with like the brain with water and then that's how you tan it to preserve the fur. And I was like,
you're not going to pee on it, huh?
I have no idea. I really don't know what's going to happen here. So
yeah,
we killed 2.
But here's the thing. If you're like, man, these guys are mean. 1, we live in the Pacific Northwest. There's animals all over the place. 2, they kept killing our chickens.
I would never bother them. Even if they were getting into my trash, I still don't think I would bother them. I would prevent my trash. Like I would bring my trash in or have, raccoon-proof trash. It is literally because they kill my chickens and it's not even like they're killing them for food because they literally leave their bodies. They just rip off their heads and I don't know. And And that's the only reason I want to preface that I would even consider this. Not only that, they've been a problem before. And skunks have also been present here. And the previous owners actually had a skunk get in through their dog door and spray. So we live kind of city rural life, and it's different.
Yeah, we floated the river last week and we ran into a moose.
Yep, we did. We ran into a moose, and it was
Not
awesome.
literally, but
Well, around the river bend, there was a moose sharing
15 feet
the
from
river
it.
with us. Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
And a little intimidating.
Yeah, you're like, please don't have a baby somewhere on the other side of me.
Yeah. Just please know that we love you and we just want to float right by you.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a wild ride over here.
But we'll keep you apprised with how the skinning of the raccoon goes whenever that happens.
Well, now, thanks to Amazon, we do own our own pellet
now we have our
rifle.
own gun.
And we were practicing today for the next
Yeah, the boys
raccoon
and I
incident.
were all out
Yeah.
shooting, and it was good.
It's great.
It shoots really well.
I mean,
it's
it went,
very similar to a 22 caliber normal gun.
which is crazy.
Yeah,
So,
we had fun, and Lincoln shot really well.
yeah, it's great.
I mean, all the boys shot really well, but yeah.
Did little man do it too?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He has to hold it like a 30-06 or something to get his waist. 'Cause he can't.
Because it's too heavy.
He can't see
It's
through
too
the
long.
scope. Right, like it's too
Yeah.
big for him.
Yeah.
But it was cute.
That's cute.
Alrighty. What are we going to talk about today besides raccoons?
We are going to talk about the creation of Winnie the Pooh.
I do love some Winnie the Pooh.
Yep. How he came to be.
Yeah. Nope. No Disney-esque today.
Well, I mean, maybe he really didn't start out Disney. Maybe Disney bought him from
Well,
someone else.
Disney did buy him from someone else. But
So you never know.
yes, that is true. No, we're going to talk about it's a few different things that are all going to converge into one story. So I'm going to first ask you some questions. We're going to talk a little bit about basketball,
Okay.
but we're not going to stay strictly basketball. It's going to get a lot bigger than that.
Okay.
A lot more of a human story than a basketball story. But I love basketball.
Yes, you do. You're wearing a Hoop Fest shirt right now.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
Ethney. Wah.
Yes, Michael.
You've heard of the Dream Team, right?
I have heard of the Dream Team. And in fact, I think you guys were the Dream Team in Hoop Fest like
2 years in a
6
row.
years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, in my opinion, the Dream Team is the greatest basketball team that has ever played the game of basketball.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the 1992 U.S. Olympic team. Led by Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Karl Malone, Larry Bird, John Stockton, Chris Mullin,
Malone, isn't it?
Karl Malone.
Oh, Karl
Chris
Malone
Mullins.
and Chris
Different one.
Mullins. Gotcha.
Who else is on that team?
You named all the big wigs.
Yeah, Dave Robinson, Patrick Ewing. Somehow
There's more
Christian
big
Laettner
wigs.
got on
Yeah.
there because they wanted a college player. But so it was really like
The Dream Team.
the Dream Team. I have 2 Larry Bird jerseys from that team, a white one and a blue one.
That's because you played Hoop Fest.
Right.
Yeah. You were Larry Bird.
That's right.
Yeah.
I wore short shorts and I had a mustache.
It was
was
real
awesome.
great. Mm-hmm.
So the reason that was the Dream Team, though, I mean, obviously they were super good, but 1992 Olympics were the first time that professionals were allowed to play
In the Olympics.
in the Olympics.
Okay.
Because it had always been an amateur
Sport.
competition before
Competition. Right.
that. And so the U.S. really wanted to send the best of the best. But I think there's more to that story of why they wanted to send the best of the best. Because in 1988, at the previous
Olympics. Uh-huh.
they were beat in the semifinals by the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union went on to win gold.
Yikes.
And during the Cold War, that ain't a good thing. So I think once the pros were able to play, then they were like, okay, we're going to send the best team we've ever sent, and we're going to make sure that we don't lose again.
And did they get gold?
The Dream Team? They most definitely did.
It was a joke.
But the story isn't about the Dream Team.
Right.
The story is more about the team from the USSR that beat them.
In 1888. Or 1988.
1988. Yep. So the time before that, so they lost to them in 88, right? The U.S. did.
Mm-hmm.
They hadn't played the Soviet Union since 1972. That was the last time they'd played before that. And they lost to the USSR in the gold medal game then, too.
Oh, yikes.
So they were on a 2-game losing streak when they sent the Dream Team. Now, everyone assumed that if you played for the Soviet Union, you were Russian.
Wouldn't you have to be?
Well, kind of, but not
I
really.
guess the Soviet Union includes
right, all
the
these
Czech Republic, probably.
all these other countries that they occupied, right? And so when they won the 1988 Olympics as Russians, in reality, 4 of those 5 starters were Lithuanian. And so they didn't consider themselves Russians.
Were they called the Russian team, or were they called the Soviet Union? Okay.
Right. But the Soviet Union is out of Moscow. They train out of Moscow. It's Russia,
Sure.
right?
Sure. It
everything
is Russia.
on their jerseys is Russian.
Right. Yeah, that's tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, these men didn't consider themselves Russian. They were an occupied nation.
They were Lithuanian.
In the USSR, and they were forced to play for Russia, essentially.
Right, essentially, yeah.
It'd be like if we occupied Canada, and then we won the gold medal in hockey, and we're like, yay, go America. I was like, well, 80% of our starters are
for the
Canadian,
5 for Canadian. Yeah, that would be very hard.
And they would be like, well, yeah, it's cool we won, but we're not American. We're Canadian.
Right. Yeah, same concept.
Right.
That would be very hard.
It would be very hard.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm trying to adjust my mic here.
Yes. Your plan didn't work out.
No, I have to adjust myself now. So, for these players, they had been born into occupation. They didn't know
what it was like to be a
free Lithuanian.
Right.
And they couldn't imagine a free Lithuania.
Right.
But they still culturally were Lithuanian, speak Lithuanian, lived in Lithuania, all those things, right? Now, Lithuania has always been a giant basketball country. They love basketball.
Yes, they do.
In the 20s and 30s, they were a small independent country. And that's when basketball kind of really took off over there. And in 1939, they hosted and won the European Championships. But in 1940, so June 14th, 1940, the Soviet Union issued them an ultimatum, essentially demanding that they establish a pro-Soviet government and allow entry of Soviet troops. That was June 14th. On June 15th, the next day, they send troops and occupy Lithuania.
So
Essentially without any fighting.
Right.
And so now in 1940, they're part of the Soviet Union. They're no longer free Lithuania.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so that after they become Soviets, the Soviets kind of put a puppet government in, a pro-Soviet government, and they start deporting all the political and intellectual figures out of the country.
To where?
Siberia. So, and this is what, Lenin and Stalin were great at. Killing millions and millions of people, of their own people.
Right. For being smarter or
just being potential risks
of
anti-Soviet.
Yeah.
And so now in 1940, Lithuania is no longer free.
Right.
And so there's a thing called so they start deporting people. There's the first wave. This happens in June 14th to 18th, 1941. And they deport about 17,000 political opponents, intellectuals, military officers, all those kind of people, and send them off to Siberia. Mm-hmm. Now, Siberia is not the greatest place on earth.
Yeah.
From what I'm told.
I don't want to go there.
So obviously these conditions are atrocious.
Harsh.
They're sent in overcrowded trains, cattle cars. Lots of them die from starvation, from
exposure,
malnourishment, all the things, right?
Exactly like
I believe
the Holocaust. Worse than.
Well, different,
But
way more people died.
sure, way more people died, and you're sent away in overcrowded places, and you die of exposure, or starvation.
Right. So
Those are all very similar
Yeah.
scenarios.
There's no concentration camps, but the gulags,
Sure, but the gulags
were terrible, and they killed
essentially
more people.
right,
For sure.
which is yeah.
And so I do believe, and don't quote me on this, I actually think Germany occupied Lithuania for a while during World War II. And
Okay,
then after World War II, the Soviets reoccupied it and took it back.
okay, because World War II was like right after this, so
Right.
the USSR
40,
took
45-ish.
or Russia, I guess, took Lithuania, and then 1942-ish,
Germany.
yeah, took over. And then
Somewhere
when the
in
war ended,
there. Right.
somehow, why did Russia get it back though? Because Germany, wow, because Germany fell.
Yeah, and they
But then
reestablished.
why couldn't Lithuania be free? If Germany occupied it, why didn't Lithuania get to be free?
The Soviets wanted them back.
Yeah.
They'd already taken them once.
Well, I know, but if they took them once and then Germany took them and then Germany fell or essentially lost, why does Russia get to have them back? Why can't they be free?
I actually think they retook them back prior to the end of World War II.
Oh,
I think it was 1944 that they reoccupied Lithuania.
That makes a little bit more sense, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's sad.
So then they start another big round of deportations.
After World War II?
Mm-hmm.
Of
People who were anti-Soviet
anti-Soviet.
or, accused of being anti-Soviet.
Oh, gosh.
So that was the second wave from 44 to 47, and then 1948 was the third wave, which was the largest single deportation, known as Operation Vesna.
And this is a deportation of specifically Lithuania or of all
this is
occupied
all Lithuania
countries?
we're talking about
All
here.
Lithuania.
This
okay.
happened amongst many other countries too.
Right, but
we're
you're
specifically
talking
Lithuanians.
specifically Lithuanian.
So then they deported about 40,000 people, but these are now women, children, elderly, not necessarily like political figures.
Why?
These are good questions.
Why not just leave them there?
Yeah.
What are they? They can't even really fight. They're not in a place to be able to dissent or fight back.
So a lot of Russian gulags were designed to, what's what I'm looking for?
Like work camps?
Yep. They were the engine of the Soviet Union.
Sure.
Where they were labor camps.
So,
they weren't just going to
essentially-
die, but that's what ended up happening.
Right, but essentially the first wave, they all just died off, so they need more, so they go do the second wave, and
I
then
don't know.
all they've got
Specifically.
left is children, and they're not even going to be that proficient. Women, children, and old elderly people are not going to be that helpful as the engine of the Soviet Union. It just seems...
Yeah, you're talking about a regime that, mass starves their own people and stuff. So I can't tell you the logic of...
It just seems stupid, but I guess that's... The whole thing is stupid. So,
Yeah.
okay.
And then you have the fourth wave in 49 to 53.
And they did another one.
Yeah.
And there's nobody left.
And now you have tens of thousands of more Lithuanians deported.
Jeez.
So many of these survivors were the parents and grandparents of that 1988 team.
Oh, yeah.
So, so I saw an interview with one of the guys that says, we don't even talk about, it's just too hard to talk about.
Oh, I'm sure it's so hard to talk about.
So, yes, they're born under occupation, but it's also a very, very,
touchy subject.
yeah,
Emotional.
It's not like, oh, we're occupied, but it's all good,
No,
we
it's
still just live our
definitely not
lives.
good. Right.
It's just a different government.
No, it's terrible.
Yes.
People that you love are being shipped off and taken away and killed, essentially.
I know one of the guys talked about his parents were the only ones of their siblings that survived.
That's so sad.
Yeah. So, one guy, not on that Soviet team, but just a guy who was who had been deported, his whole basketball team had been deported. Because
Wow.
they'd been accused of doing anti-Soviet work as a team.
Mm.
So their whole team got sent to Siberia, but they actually built a basketball court there. And he said that was the only thing that kept him alive, was basketball.
Did the Russian leaders know about this
Yeah.
basketball court and they allowed it?
I guess wherever they were.
Okay.
Yeah. But it let them keep their humanity and their dignity, being able to have something to
Right.
play for.
I'm
so
sure.
just long story short,
You're painting a picture.
basketball is the heart and soul of Lithuania.
Yeah.
Like, what soccer is to Brazil or football
Right.
is to the South, basketball is to
Lithuania.
what hockey is to Canada. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's in their blood. The whole country,
Right.
loves
Loves it. They
it.
rally.
And so, Ethney's trying to fix my mic for me now too. And so that's the setting for these Lithuanian players who were playing in the Soviet Union in the 1980s. And now they kind of became celebrities because they were really good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, a celebrity in the Soviet Union is still kind of not that great of a thing. Like, you still have a lot of restrictions on you.
Right. You don't get that many privileges.
But everywhere they went, especially because they weren't Russian, because they were Lithuanian,
Right.
they had KGB officers escort them everywhere
Oh, wow.
to make sure that they said the right things, that they didn't go anywhere, that they didn't try to escape, that they didn't. So they essentially like babysat everywhere they went by Russian CIA, officers.
I mean, good and bad, I suppose, right?
Yeah, but one of the things they did get to do was come to the States to play. Not regularly, not like in a league,
Right.
but just over. When they talked about it at night in the hotels, KGB agents would literally sit outside their doors all night long.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's commitment.
That's commitment to make sure that they didn't try to run away.
Mm-hmm.
But they couldn't believe, the U.S. when they got here. And it's hard to imagine because we have such a globalized world now where you can see what's going on in other places, right? But back then, like, they would have had no concept of what the West was like.
But
other than
really,
propaganda.
Would they have had no idea? I mean, really, I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure you would have some idea because you would see some things, but like the day-to-day life of an American.
Yeah, I guess they would have no idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like they said they ate so much fried chicken when they came over.
Fried chicken?
Yeah.
Ugh.
They just couldn't believe how much chicken was everywhere.
That's so weird.
Yeah. But they
definitely not my main thing that I would choose.
I hate fried chicken.
Yeah,
so.
if I came over. But
they toured all across Europe too, playing in various international sporting events and stuff.
So like Russia let them do this.
Mm-hmm.
Is it kind of like to say like, hey, see, we're nice. We're good. We let our, or is it more like we want to win, we want to show you up?
Probably both.
Okay.
Like North Korea, like Pyongyang is very nice in air quotes.
In air quotes.
When they,
yeah.
for those who they allow in,
right.
It's like,
but it's like,
look how great our country is.
Very kind of,
but it's very superficial.
Yeah. So kind of similar.
So I think there's some of that, but also, yeah, I mean, you've got 40 years of a Cold War. They're trying to beat the U.S. in everything, and a lot of that's propaganda. And
sure,
you can say we're better at basketball.
Sure,
that goes a long way, for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's weird. It's so like messed up. It's like they're terrible. They're killing their own people, and then they're also like letting these people travel to the States and play basketball. It's just like,
yay, communism.
Yeah, it's just messed up. Okay,
so but it's funny, in Russia, not Russia now, in the Soviet Union, there was no such thing as business, like
because it's communist.
Because it's all communist.
Right.
So you couldn't resell anything.
Right.
Like if you had...
Could you trade?
I don't know about trading or not.
Okay.
Like, you couldn't say like, oh, I have, this pair of shoes. I don't need this pair of shoes anymore. I'm going to sell them. That would be considered smuggling. Because you're profiting the money is not going to the state, right?
Right, I guess so.
And so that's how they would deem it. You could go to jail. You could,
Wow. It's legit.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
And so, but like I said, these Soviet basketball players were stars, quote unquote. They made about $100 a month. So
it's good money.
Well, it's kind of crappy money.
It's good money when you make no money.
Well, compared to nothing, I guess. So they would buy whatever they could wherever they were, and they would just smuggle it back in, like jeans, whatever they could buy wherever they were, whatever country they were in, and they would take it back. And they said that the government kind of turned
looked the other way
a little bit more with them because they were the national stars, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's just how life was for them.
Right.
Like these are the same guys that are going to compete against Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson.
It's crazy.
And the lifestyles they're having, you know,
Right.
with huge deals with Nike and, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
those kind of things versus literally smuggling jeans into
Clothes
the
in.
country to provide for your family while training to be, you know, a world-class basketball player. You know, it's just totally the dichotomy of the two things.
Oh, totally.
And not only being a world-class basketball player, playing for your occupied leader.
Right. But you're also like on the world stage where they're watching you. And it's like, it would be hard to not be angry by the facade and like want to rebel against your own,
Totally.
you know,
Mhm.
especially once you're more aware of
Right.
what is out there.
So in 1986,
Okay.
so 2 years before that gold medal game,
Mm-hmm.
or when they won the gold medal, the Portland Trailblazers did something no one would ever see coming, and they drafted one of these Lithuanian players.
Are you allowed to do that?
So yes and no.
Huh.
So they could totally do it because all you're drafting is the rights to that player.
But you can draft anyone in the world,
Yep.
anywhere, even to this day? Or have they changed that?
No, essentially you could draft anyone. So
Okay.
essentially it's if you're going to come play in the NBA, we have the rights to you coming and playing in the NBA.
Right.
Yeah. And so they drafted Arvydas Sabonis.
Arvida?
Arvydas Sabonis. Have you
Wow.
heard that name?
I feel like it's
You should feel like it's vaguely familiar.
Yeah, vaguely familiar.
Because, well, we'll get there in a second. So Arvydas Sabonis was 7'4", big man.
Was he kind of lighter hair?
Yeah, he kind of had brown.
7'4"?
7'4".
That's redunculous.
Probably the best passing big man I've
Oh.
ever seen in my life.
Wow. I mean, I guess his arm span, I mean, he could probably like reach around 4
He
people.
could reach around a lot of people.
Yeah.
And he liked to, like most big guys aren't known for their assists.
No,
right?
they're not
Like,
at all. They're usually down and low,
Right.
fighting it up. And
he loved
Posting
to
up.
pass.
Wow.
And he loved to score and dunk it and all sorts. I mean, he was very.
for him to dunk, I don't even think he has to jump. He just kind of does a little
I'm
hop.
sure at 7'4" you don't have to jump.
You just do a tiny little hop.
But he was a beast.
I mean, yeah.
So and again, he's on a world stage, but he's behind the Iron Curtain. And so
That's interesting.
I think it was the 24th or 26th pick in the first round that
Right.
year. The Trailblazers
Yeah.
draft him.
So is 24 or 25th or whatever pick, is that high up? Is that low
I mean,
down?
it's their first pick.
It's their first pick.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was their first pick.
He was their first pick.
Gotcha.
And it's funny because David Stern, who was the commissioner
coach,
of
or
the
the
NBA, my whole childhood up until maybe 10 years ago. I mean, he literally, because he doesn't know who they're going to pick, right? He just gets a card when the pick's in and literally laughs when he reads it. Like, oh my goodness, like why in the world would you waste your pick on
This
someone
guy.
behind the Iron Curtain? Like, there's no chance they're ever going to come over and play in the U.S.
So if they say no or if they literally can't, you've still wasted your pick.
Yep.
Okay. I kind of love that they did this though.
Yeah. The fans were disappointed. You know, it's funny watching I've watched an interview or some, interviews with some of those fans in 86, and they're like, can't even pronounce his name. Like, why would we do this? Now, I mean, top 2 of the top 5 NBA players, maybe you could argue more, are Eastern European.
Right. Oh, for sure.
Serbia, Croatia.
Oh, yeah.
Lithuania. I mean, like now it's very commonplace to have names you can't pronounce or
Yes.
spell.
But this was kind of like
yeah.
paving a path.
Right.
Mhm.
The reason why you might recognize his name is because so eventually Arvydas Sabonis did come over and play for the Trailblazers, but it wasn't until 1995.
So how many years later?
So 9 years before he actually ever came over and played for him.
So they drafted him and then 9 years later?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
But his son grew up in Portland. His name is DeMontis Sabonis, and he played for Gonzaga.
Gonzaga.
And
That's
he is
why.
now a all-star in the NBA on the Kings in Sacramento, and is just an absolute stud.
So he's grown up in the States.
He grew up in the
his dad.
Northwest. Yeah.
Why did his dad come over 9 years later? You feel like his career would almost be over by
But
then.
he was. When he came over, he was not the same player he was on the 88 Olympic team. He was much slower, much more methodical, kind of typical big man versus Like, actually, I had never seen him play for the Soviet Union. Like, I remember as a kid watching Arvydas Sabonis play for the Trailblazers growing up here in the Northwest. And the guy I watched play for Russia or the Soviet Union was a very, very different player.
Yeah.
A much thinner, much more spry, athletic.
Well, so if you're drafted, your draft stays open forever? Like,
yeah.
I think I don't get that, but that's cool. I mean, that's cool that he could come 9 years later. Like, his just contract's hanging out there in no man's land forever.
Yep. Just not even a contract, just the rights to a contract.
To a contract. So when he said, yeah, I want to come over, they're probably like, oh, dang, it's 9 years. This is a long time. I don't know if I really want you anymore.
Well, they could release him if they didn't want it.
They could.
Yeah.
Okay. I just didn't know I don't know how that works.
But so he talked about when like he heard like, oh, some team in the NBA in America drafted me. Like, okay, that means nothing to me. I'm never leaving here. I don't know what. Oh, cool. Like,
so he heard immediately, or it took years for him to even know that it had happened?
He heard.
So then was he just not given permission by the country?
I mean, there was.
Is that really why though? Because you think he would have sooner if he could have?
Oh, I'm sure if you could get out and.
So the country didn't let him. The leader, whatever, didn't let him for 9 years. That's when
we'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
Kind of not. But definitely not then. You know,
right?
It was just like, I mean, we can't see in 1986 not being part of the Soviet Union, not being let out, not being. I mean, yeah. So then come the 1988 Olympics, where they win the gold medal.
Okay.
Arvydas Sabonis is one of those players, and there's a couple other, you know, I said 4 of the 5 are Lithuanian players that win that gold medal. Now, they're given something very special by their coach prior to that Olympics, who is a Russian, but he tells them if they give their all to the Soviets, then he'll fight for them to be able to play abroad professionally. You know, so they could go play in a European league or the NBA or, you know, which is a huge deal. Like,
but I mean, I don't really know how much clout their coach really would have, but
I don't know either. And I don't know if this was something that came down from above, you know, to him, but this was absolutely huge for them. Like, okay, we go out there, we ball it up. We might have the opportunity to go play.
Get out of our country.
Yeah.
Yeah. If your people want to leave, it's not a good sign for your country.
Yeah. And not that they would be free to leave.
Forever.
Like they would still have to contribute to the Soviet Union,
sure pay,
blah, 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 that. But even have the opportunity to go
live
play
somewhere differently.
In a different league somewhere, right?
Experience, yeah.
And these guys are some of the top players in the world.
Right.
So that was huge. And they could not ever dream the possibility of leaving the USSR. I mean, when they go play games, they currently have KGB agents babysitting them everywhere, you know?
Right, yeah.
So 1988 games come, they win. So now it's 1989. Golden State Warriors. NBA
California.
team. Yep, in Oakland.
California.
That's where Steph Curry plays currently. Right. And they want to sign one of these 4 guys as a free agent. So not Arvydas Sabonis, but they're a 6'5" combo guard named Sarunas Marciulionis.
Oh, he's tiny. He's only 6'5".
Yeah.
Yeah, he's teeny.
So they want to sign him to a free agent deal. Okay. So they're not drafting him, just we want to give you a contract, come over and play with us. So Donnie Nelson is a scout for the Warriors. His dad's the head coach and was one of the coaches on the Olympic team.
Okay.
He had played against Marciulionis a few years before during a charity game and said Marciulionis scored like 40 points on him. So he's like, yeah, this guy's pretty good. Like, we should go after him.
Yeah.
Which, again, this is a totally bonkers idea. Like, great, but you can't get a Soviet player. You know, they're part of the Soviet Union. And so Donnie starts going to Lithuania and staying with Marciulionis.
Are you allowed to do that?
So apparently, I mean, there's enough.
It was free
goodwill.
enough to.
And at this time, like Metallica went and played a huge concert in
That's
the
true.
Soviet Union.
That's
Like
true.
by the time the late 80s are coming,
It's getting a little less.
Yeah, things are starting to change a little bit. I know, actually, there's a great podcast that my brother Mark made me listen, or not made me, but introduced me to, all about oh shoot, which band is it? I can't think.
It's not Metallica.
No, things like "Come On, Feel the Noise" and the Scorpions.
Okay.
And Winds of Change and all that, and them playing in Russia. Anyways, long story. Super cool podcast. So anyways, things are starting to kind of change a little bit. But so he'd go and he would stay with Marcellinus in his apartment, like his little crummy apartment. But he would tell him, like, we can't talk about basketball because my whole apartment's bugged. Like, they're listening all the time to everything I'm saying.
How does he even know English?
I don't know if he has interpreter. That's a good question. I don't know how they communicated. So Golden State ends up offering him a 3-year deal. And say, hey, we want you to come over and play for the Warriors.
And he's like,
I would love
great,
to come play.
I have to get permission. Like, I'm not allowed.
But he decides, I'm going to try. I'm going to go to the Soviet sports agency.
I'm going to try.
And I'm going to try to ask for permission to go play. Wow. We won the gold medal. You know, like, I've given my all to the Soviets. Now, the way he's framed it is the Soviets would look at it the other way. No, we've given you everything to make you this basketball player. Like,
right.
You are a cog to us, not the other way around.
Yep.
And he was super, this is a huge deal.
Oh, for sure.
Because it was either they're going to say yes, or he might get sent to Siberia and thrown in jail, you know, for asking to abandon the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
But he could kind of see the writing on the wall. He's reading the tea leaves, you know, are things changing?
Are they getting better? It seems like they are. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so it's a huge gamble.
Yeah.
But Marcellinus goes, he asks, and they let him.
Wow.
And he said he didn't actually believe it until
he was like on the plane.
Well, even when he got to the airport, the tickets weren't there. And he's like, it's not, like, they're not really letting me. But then they showed up and he got on the plane. And it wasn't until it was in the air, like,
flying,
gone, that he was like, oh, I might actually be going to the United States to play basketball. And so he goes. Now, Chris Mullin, he was on that 92 Dream Team. He was the Golden State Warrior. He was the one who was staying with him, coming in and going in. No, that was a guy by the name of Donnie Nelson. Oh, okay. So Chris Mullin is a Hall of Famer NBA player that was for the Warriors. One of his teammates on the Warriors team described taking him to the grocery store for the first time ever when he got there. And Marcellinus was confused about how the rations worked on vegetables. And Chris is like, there's no rations. Like, you can just buy whatever you want. And he said he just broke down in tears. Like, he couldn't fathom the concept of he could just buy. And they didn't have bananas, I guess, in the Soviet Union. Like, that wasn't a thing they... And so just broke down in tears. Like heart-wrenching? Yeah, like, I know everyone in the United States, like, life can be challenging. But we're all, like, the top 1% of the humanity that's ever lived. Bless you. Sorry. You know, the fact that even with $10, I can go to, you know, the store and buy whatever I want. Yeah. Is like the things we take for granted. All of humanity would be jealous of my existence. Okay. I have a flushing toilet. You know, it's just there's not so many royal person, you know, that ever had that. Yeah, that's true. Maybe some did back in the day, but you know what I'm saying. You know, the things we take for granted for. Mm-hmm. And today, there's still countries. You know, there's people that don't even know. You know, in North Korea and whatever. Anyways, so he starts playing over here, and he does. I mean, really, really well. Mm-hmm. And he becomes good buddies with his teammates. And so him playing in the States kind of became a gauge on the culture wars between the Soviet Union and the States. Because he was the only one that had actually played. He was officially the first one so far. Because even though the other guy was drafted, he still hadn't come. Exactly. Gotcha. And so newspapers would send Russian reporters to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he would tell them, like, I'm not Russian. And they'd be, what do you mean you're not Russian? Like, you're from the Soviets. Like, I'm not Russian. I'm Lithuanian. Like, send a Lithuanian reporter to talk to me. I want to talk to you in Lithuanian.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of open people's eyes, like, oh, like, these people don't want to be part of it either, you know? Like,
right.
But it was the first time you had a mainstream U.S. athlete, a name that was kind of showing
opening
that.
up the world. Uh-huh.
Right. And he wasn't talking bad about the
Nope.
Soviet Union. He was just
I want
showing
I
you,
want to
like,
speak Lithuanian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not Russian. And so that same year, the Berlin Wall falls,
Wow.
1989.
Mm-hmm.
So on May 18th, 1989, Lithuania declares sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
They declare their own
Freedom.
asserting, yeah. Well, they don't declare independence, but they declare that Lithuanian laws now supersede Soviet laws.
That's good.
You know, it's like this first step to freedom.
Right.
And then there's this really cool thing. Older people are going to remember this. And when I say older, you don't have to be old. But anyone who's probably 5 years older than you or me, like my older brothers, will probably remember this. It's called the Baltic Way, August 23rd, 1989.
Okay.
It was a peaceful political demonstration. We had about 2 million people from Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia that literally held hands and formed a human chain across all three of those countries.
Wow.
2 million people.
That's...
showing, a common...
that they just want to be free.
Yeah.
Like, this is our land. This is our people. And
we're ready to...
Yeah. We want to be free. We want to be able to do the things in our country, in our culture that, you know.
I don't know anything about the Baltic Way, but that really touched me when I watched it.
The Baltic Way,
mm-hmm.
Not Wabe.
No, way.
Way.
Because again, I think you and I we were alive when this thing happened, but we were so young it was never taught to us.
I mean,
you know, like,
yeah.
It was kind of this weird...
It's more of like a current event, and then we were... If you learned about it as a current event, and then it wouldn't get into like your history or your curriculum until like we would have missed that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there's some of the whole end of the Cold War stuff that...
2 million people.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
That's really cool.
And obviously there's footage and stuff because it was
I just don't understand. I mean, like, what about... There's so many times in the border where it's unmarked and... I mean, it's like... The terrain would be... How do you even...
Well, it was all on like roads, like across like the highways. And stuff.
Okay.
At least what I saw.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So then in 1990, they actually declare independence.
That's
on March 11th, 1990. And then the Soviets decided we don't like that.
Of course they did.
Yeah. So it was actually very big news across the world. In January 1991, so the Soviets imposed a blockade in Lithuania, trying to, like an economic blockade, cutting off supplies and essential goods and stuff.
Forcing their hand
to... And so...
Succumb again.
On January 13th, the Soviet troops tried to seize some key buildings in Vilnius, which included a TV tower in the parliament. And the TV tower kind of became that's what everyone kind of saw on the news and stuff. It kind of became this symbol. And it turned out there were these violent clashes in Lithuania between these protesters and these Soviet troops. And 14 civilians died. Hundreds and hundreds were injured. I saw this super sad video of this kid who was like 14, who was being interviewed by someone who... he said he went down to the TV station to try to find his dad who had been protesting. And they asked him, did you find your dad? And he burst out in tears. He says, yes, but he'd been run over by a tank. It's just horrible,
Horrible.
But this caught the attention of the Western world. President Bush, all sorts of...
Thank goodness.
Mm-hmm. And Lithuania kind of became the poster child of independence from the Soviet Union, from what I could gather. Again, weird hole in our lives' history, because I was in kindergarten when this happened.
Right.
So that was January 91. So September 91, the Soviet Union officially recognized Lithuania's independence.
Wow.
So they were Lithuania again.
That's amazing.
So now, though, this is 91. You've got the 92 Olympics coming. And all of a sudden, these four guys are like, we're going to play basketball for Lithuania.
That's awesome.
Like in the Olympics.
As Lithuanians.
As Lithuanians.
Yeah.
Not Russians.
Not Russians or even Soviet Union. Yeah.
And so that was amazing, except there was one problem. Lithuania literally had no money.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
Right. Especially because
there wasn't a country 5 minutes ago. Now there's a country. Like, how are you going to send a team to the Olympics? And so,
I promise Russia's not helping you.
Yeah. And so, but you have one of your superstars playing in the United States.
Yeah.
And so Marshallonis goes to his friend Donnie Nelson, the scout who, and he says, hey, like, we need to do something. Like, you've got to help me. We've got to raise money for our Lithuanian basketball team.
Yeah.
And so they start doing these small little events.
Fundraisers.
Like speaking events. So Marshallonis and Donnie will go to pretty much anyone who will have them for a couple $100, and they'll talk about basketball and the NBA and blah, 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 whatever. And then he would send the money back to Lithuania. And so they're doing that for a little while. And a local newspaper writer in Oakland catches wind of the story and writes a article in the paper, about this is what they're trying to do to get Lithuania in there. And I love these kind of stories where like just things cascade down. So while he writes the article and it is read by members of one of San Francisco's most legendary bands of all time, which were the Grateful Dead. Now, the Grateful Dead are huge basketball fans. And so Marshallonis is due to play a game in Detroit coming up here. And the Grateful Dead are playing
in Detroit.
Yep, the same exact venue the night before.
Oh, that's fun. And
so they invite him and Donnie to come to the show. And so
to the concert?
To come to the concert, yep. So he goes to the two of them go to the concert. They watch it. Marshallonis is blown away by
the concert.
This is the Grateful Dead, like
the
psychedelic,
probably of a
the
concert,
music,
even.
It all,
who knows
yeah.
What
like,
they've experienced there.
You can't be more westernized than the Grateful Dead, or more anti-Soviet Union than the Grateful Dead.
I don't know.
Nothing more symbolic. Tie-dye and dancing teddy bears and skeletons.
Dancing teddy bears.
Just.
You guys, the signs of America are dancing teddy bears, in case you didn't know.
And a lot of weed. And so after the show, they go backstage and they meet the band. And Donnie says, what's his name? Jerry Garcia lights a joint that looks like a cigar.
It's like so fat.
So fat. And he's like, it was so hard to even like talk to these guys because everyone was
they're
so buzzed.
Stoned. Yeah.
But the Grateful Dead are just like, oh my goodness. Like, one, we love basketball. Two, like, we're all about like peace and independence and doing what you want to do. And like, that's what Lithuania is all about. And that's what you're here representing your country. We want to personally sponsor the Lithuanian basketball team.
That's so cute.
Yeah. So the Grateful Dead writes a huge check to the Lithuanian Olympic basketball team.
That's awesome.
And essentially personally sponsors their basketball team.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. So that's cool, right? But then they send over a box to the Lithuanian team. And this box...
The Grateful Dead does?
Mm-hmm,
okay.
They are Grateful Dead Lithuania basketball uniforms. Tie-dyed in Lithuanian colors with the skeleton dunking a basketball that says Lithuania across the top.
That's awesome.
And these became the biggest cultural phenomena you've ever seen.
I'm sure.
And these guys wore them everywhere. The Lithuanian team.
Yeah.
And it became such a juxtaposition of a year ago we were part of the Soviet Union.
And
We
now-
weren't allowed to think for ourselves. We weren't allowed to do anything. Now we're Lithuania wearing
tie-dye,
Tie-dye,
skeleton dunker.
Grateful Dead jerseys.
That's awesome.
Like there's nothing more Western or,
Right.
different than what they were the year before.
Which is super cool.
Yeah. And so it was just, this amazing cultural event. And it was this cultural phenomenon. I tried to buy one. I went online
Oh
to
my
see if I
gosh.
could find one.
Probably like $1 million.
They were very expensive. And I thought I didn't really want a real one. I thought there'd be reprints out there because they're super cool.
They're not.
The cheapest one I could find was $300.
Oof, dang. I'm glad you didn't buy
I didn't
that.
buy it. I mean, if I wasn't going to buy our royalty in Sealand
Yeah.
for a lot cheaper than that,
Yeah.
or a Sealand soccer jersey for $100,
Yeah. Then I can
this is way cooler. Than
This
a
is
Sealand
way
soccer
cool.
jersey.
I mean, it's right up your alley.
If you don't know what we're talking about, you gotta go check out our episode on Sealand,
Yeah.
the
Sealand.
made-up country. So the '92 Olympics were something that we'll probably never see again.
No, never.
Because not only was it Lithuania, it was all of these newly independent countries
Right.
representing themselves, in the Olympics that were all formerly part of the Soviet
Soviet
Union.
Union. Yeah.
And so Lithuania shows up and they kick butt, man. They go 5-0.
Do they wear the tie-dye jerseys? The
No, so
Olympics?
they have actual.
Okay.
They
I
have
was just
actual jerseys
wanting to know
for
about
the
this.
Olympics. But everyone there,
Wants them.
yeah, they're like the fan favorites. And there's tie-dye jerseys in the stands. There's all sorts of people who are like, I'm going to root for the Dream Team, and I'm also going to root for Lithuania because it's like the Grateful Dead. Like, this is so cool,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And so they go 5-0, just kicking butt in group play and in the tournament up to the semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
So the semifinals, they get matched up against the Dream Team. And they take it pretty, like they're honored to be on the court.
With the
With-
Dream Team.
They're icons. They're heroes of basketball, right? Like Arvydas Sabonis talks about, like, we were going to make sure everyone got to play and that everyone got a pitcher.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of game this was. It reminds me of, so my junior year in high school, we played a state tournament game. I think it was the quarterfinals against Rainier Beach. And it was one of these same kind of games. Like, Rainier Beach had Nate Robinson, was a senior that year. He ended up being a future 3-time NBA dunk champ.
He's tiny too.
Yeah, he's so small.
But he can fly.
jump.
Yeah.
So they had future 3-time NBA dunk champ on the
Yeah.
team. They had Logic and Roderick Stewart, who were
Oh,
these twins.
Twins that are
One went to USC.
Right.
One went to Kansas and won a national championship at Kansas. Like, these were grown men that we were playing against. They had a 7-footer. Like, it was a very different
game.
And it was just kind of like, yeah, we'll just go out there and do the best we can, and we'll have fun,
And we'll take pictures.
and we'll take pictures, and we'll be in awe at their athleticism, because it'd be like if our team played like the 7th grade B
Yeah.
team, like the skill level was so different.
So different.
Like, there would be times because we had a player on our team who was really good, and he was a second team All State player, so top 10 player in the state of Washington, and he played amazing. I think he had like 40 some points. Like, he did amazing. But there would be times where you'd look at the scoreboard and you'd be like, hey, we're only down like 12. And then they would look at the scoreboard and be like, hey, we're only up by like 12. I guess we should play hard. And then it'd be, oh, we're up by 27 again, real fast. Okay,
Yeah.
now we can just have fun again, And they won the state championship. And
Oh, I'm sure.
yeah. But it was kind of one of those games where it's just like, we have no shot here.
But it's fun.
Let's just go out and
Yeah.
do what we can do. And
Right.
yeah. And so they enjoyed it and they
I'm
had
sure
a good
they
time.
did.
They ended up losing 127-76.
It's a decent fight.
But again, this is the best basketball team that's ever played.
Right.
The Dream Team. Like, they cleaned everybody up.
Yeah, and Lithuania is like a brand new country.
Brand new country. So they had fun. They got to play. The real story came when they played the bronze medal game. Because guess who they played in the bronze medal game?
Did they play Russia?
They played the Soviet Union.
Oh, wow.
Well, they played the unified team. That's what they were called. But it's the former Soviet Union.
Right.
And they had actually played them in a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a recreational game, like a warm-up game for the Olympics.
Like a scrimmage?
Like a month, yeah, like a scrimmage. In soccer, you'd call it a friendly. I don't know what you would call it in basketball, but
I don't know.
And they had lost to him. And so now on this huge stage, I mean, the whole country's tuned in, and they talked about, like, when they played the Soviet Union in the Olympics, there wasn't a soul on the street in Lithuania. Like, you couldn't find it. Everyone was in their homes.
They were terrified, or they were
glued
watching?
to the TV,
Glued to the TV.
watching. And so for these guys, it was like, it was so much more than, like, we cannot lose to the Soviet Union, because it's so much more than just a basketball game.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is,
it's representing.
this is our heritage.
yes.
This is our everything. Yeah.
Years and years and
Years of oppression.
Uh-huh.
And it was just an absolute battle. Like, both games. Like, they'd lost to him just not long before. It was back and forth and back and forth. The starting point guard got elbowed in the face, and there was blood coming all down. How you pulled out
Broken
the
nose?
game? Nope, it was like a laceration, like above his eye. But in the end, Lithuania won 82-78.
Oof.
And so
Nice.
they won the bronze medal.
That's amazing.
Now, this is the best part of the whole story.
Okay.
So when they go to the podium, to receive their bronze medal, they come out in their Grateful Dead uniform.
Really?
Really? So you've got the dream team,
Yeah.
They've got, I think Croatia lost this. I think that's who
Croatia got silver. Okay.
Got, absolutely drubbed by the U.S.
Right.
And then you've got these Grateful Dead tie-dye
That's awesome.
Lithuanians on the podium,
That's awesome.
who couldn't have, done, like, they could. It didn't matter if they win gold. I mean, they were the champs, right?
Yeah.
They had won.
Right. They had definitely captured
the hearts
of the world, literally.
Yeah. And
That's
then
so cool.
they go back into the locker room afterwards in their Grateful Dead, and
It's kind of hilarious.
they get to celebrate and sing the Lithuanian national anthem,
Oh.
because
There's
the
so
first
many
time
tears.
ever. Yeah. Again,
Like, I just want to cry.
I know
crying.
what I'm saying. Like, it's a story of just, like, it was an amazing story.
Because it's probably the first time they've
Yeah.
ever been able to sing their national anthem.
Oh, definitely as a team, and to actually beat your former occupiers, and to medal, and to, all these
well, just
things.
to feel the love, from the world. Like, just they've been oppressed for so long, right? So just to feel that love is that's just so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their president was in the locker room with them, and he said, like, oh, it was so atrocious. Like, they were so bad at singing, but it was so awesome,
Oh,
like,
yeah. Well, they're like cry singing, probably ugly cry singing too.
Yeah.
That ugly cry that your heart is just so overwhelmed in whatever, good or bad, but just the happy, ugly cry. It was so cool.
Yeah, it was. So anyways, like, it was just like, this is an amazing story.
That is.
And basketball, like, I love basketball, right?
Oh,
So,
sure. So then
like, there was even a double awesome.
that is super awesome.
So that was in 92. Like I said, so Sarbonis came over in, what did I say, 95, 96?
Somewhere
in there.
9
So I don't
years
know.
after, the 88.
I think it was 95. when he
Okay,
came
that
over.
sounds
So I
about
don't know
right.
what he did for those 3 years. Like, what took him, so long to
Get over.
come over and play in the States.
Yeah.
But he was, an awesome basketball player in the States when he came over for the Trailblazers. He played
Kind of
with Clyde
amazing that you
Drexler.
can be an awesome basketball player 9 years later.
Actually, I think Clyde Drexler was on the Dream Team as well.
He might have been.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I feel like him and Reggie Miller, but then I feel like maybe that was the 96 Olympic team with Shaquille O'Neal. Anyways, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so anyways. But then this is double cool because, one, I watched Arvydas Sabonis play a ton growing up, living up here.
Well, and his son played on the
And then
Zags.
his son was a Zag.
Which is cool.
Yeah. And is one of the, 9 or so Zags in the NBA right now.
Right.
If you're wondering what that means, Gonzaga is here in Skokie. It's our
team.
local college, but they're
really good. They're
like a
tiny.
top-
It's a tiny school, but
so small.
their program is incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool story. It did make me cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like happy cry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like just.
You'll have to look up the jerseys.
Oh my
Which
gosh.
is so
I'm
cool.
sure
like
they're
the
so
Grateful
ugly.
Dead, was willing to sponsor them
Oh, it's
personally
so cool.
so that they could play.
Yeah. That's really, really
I don't know what
cool.
size check that was that they wrote, but good job, Jerry Garcia and Mickey. Can't think of Mickey's last name, but whatever the other.
Rooney. I don't know.
No, that's an actor.
Those are all other people that are famous.
Yeah. 2 actors, actually. Yeah.
Anyway.
Mickey Rooney.
That's a really good story. Like, just, yeah. Lots of feels. Lots of feels. So,
yeah.
I love it.
Full circle.
I want to see the jerseys.
Yeah, we'll look them up here.
You'll have to look up those jerseys and see if you are wanting to spend your 300 pennies on 300,000 pennies. $300.
Yeah.
I don't know how many pennies that is. I can't do the math right now. It's too late. But on a jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool.
I bet they are.
Yeah. I found a really cool one. It was a Lithuania jersey signed by Jerry Garcia that had his name on the back, but it was like, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, that signature, darn it.
Yeah.
I wonder if one of those jerseys is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland.
I don't know. When we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last time, or maybe the only time, have you ever been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Mm-hmm.
You went with us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For some reason, I feel
Well,
like
you went more than once. I
maybe
just went
that's what it
once.
was.
Yeah.
But they have, so the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is it's a pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
And at the very top of the pyramid are like traveling exhibits. Like, it's not always the same thing. And the last time I was there, it was all Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
At the very tip top.
Was the jersey there? Do you remember?
I don't recall. I remember some, what's his name? David Bowie. Crazy outfits and things like that.
Right.
In the Hall of Fame. I do not recall a Lithuanian basketball jersey.
Oh, well, it's a good story.
I think there was a napkin where Brian Wilson wrote "God Only Knows," and I thought that was about the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
I don't quote me.
I feel like that's familiar to me, like lyrics on a napkin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I might have been there with you for that one.
I've got a thing for the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson.
Yes,
and
you
Al
should.
Hardeen
He has a book,
Yeah.
and hopefully
Mike
someday
Love
it gets picked
All
up.
the dudes, Dennis Wilson,
Anyway,
all the Beach Boys.
yeah,
Just like the Beach Boys.
needs to get picked up. So,
All right,
All right,
everyone.
you guys.
It's a little bit longer tonight.
Yeah, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, another week.
Next week's, I'm sure, will be not nearly as good as this. So
It will be great.
it'll be great, but not as great.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Like the Grateful Dead.
Yes.
Ha ha.
Ha. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Be nice to people, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.
See you later.